Hello, everyone. Welcome back. My name is Jeff Mendelson, and this is the One Big Tip podcast. My guest today is Orsolya Herbein. She is a partner at Brand3, a branding company that uses a holistic approach to growing your business. With a strong focus on entrepreneurs, Orsolya created a three-part framework that takes companies from noise to clarity. The framework she uses integrates marketing strategy, branding methods, and a strong focus on customer experience. Using this holistic approach, her clients have seen an increase in sales of over 60% in just 2 years. Today, Orshi shares her framework and other actionable tips to help you increase your business revenue. So, we were talking about in the pre-call how this is going to be two marketing nerds just totally nerding out on everything marketing. So I am really excited about this today. Orshi, thank you so much for joining me and welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me.
So I would like to understand a little bit about your background. So, as a partner and creative director at Brand3, you were right in the thick of things, in terms of running a marketing agency and helping companies become more profitable. Tell us a little bit about your background and how you became so amazing.
So my background is in graphic design. I got to graphic design by becoming a creative and artistic little girl who always wanted to draw pictures and just explore anything creative. But I did not want to get stuck with a career that would be too boring for me. And also, I did not want to go into fine art and just do fine art because I understood that I'm not a Picasso. I really needed to use creativity to move along. And then I discovered the graphic design. And it's interesting because I'm an analytical creative a little bit. So I love the problem solving aspect of graphic design that allows me to make beautiful things that actually have to function. And I actually am a self-proclaimed visual problem solver because I like to translate big ideas into beautiful visuals that function really well. So, graphic design gives me these walls that allow me to finish a project versus fine art would be just however long I want to mess with something, right? So I certainly enjoy the challenge, and I think I thrive in the challenge of wanting to please a client, wanting to do really well, translating a strategy into something like a direct mail, like just really, really specifically solving a problem or fulfilling a function with design is what I absolutely love doing. And that's how branding is just perfect for me.
You know what's interesting? You just coined a term that I never heard before: an analytical graphic designer, right? And
No.
that really gets to the heart of what like the specialities that a lot of people tend to fall into, or how they label themselves. I tell people all the time I read and write English to a very high level. Right. I have a master's degree. Like I tend to think that I'm really good at this stuff. I cannot write a blog post. Right. It would take me forever to crank out 1,000-word blog post, whereas I could just hire a writer and that's exactly what they do. And they'll be able to do it in 2 hours. That would take me 3 days to do the same thing. Right. Same thing with, with graphic design. Canva makes me awesome. Right. But but it was designed to help people like me, sort of become more creative and be able to do things like that. Let me ask you something. Once you realize that like this was your calling, like how were you able to bring this to the forefront and ultimately start your own agency to manage these types of projects? How did all that come about?
Well, I didn't. I probably would still be freelancer or an in-house designer somewhere if it wasn't for my business partner, Matt. So when I say I'm an analytical creative, what I mean by that is I actually, by nature, I'm very much a realist. Okay. and I needed a visionary like my business partner Matt, um, to help me go to the next level, and really help me tap into my own visionary side. So I don't know if you know Simon Sinek, but he wrote a book called Infinite Games, and I absolutely love that book. And he says, in order to go somewhere, you don't necessarily have to have your own visions, but you can kind of follow along a vision. And Matt had a vision that he couldn't make into reality, right? With this business, he couldn't grow his business because he by nature, he flies around Jupiter constantly and just has these great ideas. He's kind of like a starry night. It lights up here and it lights up here and it lights up there. And me, as an analytical creative, I am very, very in tune with his ideas and I understand them, but I connect the dots, and and I make them reality. So when Matt and I put our freelance businesses together, that's when things started really happening. And uh, what's interesting is that I used to describe myself as, Matt is this helium balloon that I'm holding, right? But through the years of working with Matt and becoming more of a leader, I'm now a frequent commuter between Earth and Jupiter. So I have like this rocket ship, and I can fly to Jupiter, spend time with him, really brainstorm, get great ideas. And I always was good at that. Like, I want to be here, but then I also don't want to waste my time, and I want to make sure that things actually happen and progress.
What a great analogy, going between Jupiter and here,
Yeah.
right? Like, in my previous lives, I was a pre-sales engineer, right? And for those of you that don't know, that's basically the technical guy who translates tech to corporate, right? So I would go with the salespeople and make all these great presentations about what our, they would talk about what the product could actually do, but I was actually talking to tech on how it actually gets done, right? And it was always a challenge to try to tone down the tech talk, like, oh yeah, we're just going to use an XML file to translate this whole thing, just stupid stuff like that. And what happened was, it actually became quite enjoyable because I was able to really bridge, these two worlds, one, which was sales. Like, I was never really great at sales. Like, you would never catch me selling cars or even selling, big ticket software, things like that. But also, I'm not a great programmer, right? I'm not a great, tech guy. So I really had to find, like a way to get into that kind of niche and be useful into both those worlds, which was actually quite interesting. Once I got that revelation, it was like, okay, mind blown. How do I start making money at this? And that's
Mhm.
really where things started taking off. I wanted to uh, I wanted to switch gears here and talk a little bit about your approach, Brand Three's approach to, marketing and how you guys help clients. So you have a framework that helps clients understand, what it is that they do, how they put that information out there to the world, and how it comes back to them, with greater profits. Can you talk to me a little bit about what that framework is and how you put it to good use with your clients?
Mhm. Yeah. So generally, we found that a lot of businesses struggle with marketing is because they skip certain steps, right? So they just go to the tactics essentially when it comes to marketing, and they are not ever really thinking on how to align strategically their message with an audience needs or desires, right? So when we come in, we usually find that they have been marketing, but their marketing is very siloed. They think about marketing as direct mail, SEO, social media, and sometimes, and actually it's very, very common, that they have a social media person, a web guy, a graphic designer, and an SEO person, and whoever else, and an internal marketing coordinator who posts for them, and a blog writer, and nobody ever talks to each other, right? So what we do at Brand 3 is create a strategic approach that combines and takes into consideration brand marketing and customer experience, because honestly, any of those fail, it's kind of like a three-legged stool. Then the stool doesn't stand, right? So you could have the greatest message and image, but use the wrong tactics for marketing, and your ideal audience will never see it, right? Or you could have a greatest message and image, and use the right tactics but deliver a really crappy experience. So you experience something like this, an influx of customers, and then all of a sudden they start leaving bad reviews and you go out of business because your reputation is bad, right? So it's very essential to look at marketing through a holistic lens and take all these things into consideration. And in terms of the strategy, a lot of times businesses would just skip branding entirely, go and start marketing, and oftentimes they use the right tactics, but what they push out there is their brand, and brand is a perception, right? It's me formulating thoughts and feelings about what I see and whether I need it, right? And if there isn't that clarity of message and image that immediately grabs an attention of an ideal prospect, or you don't know who your ideal audience is, then you're not going to be able to make traction with that marketing, and essentially wasting a lot of time and money spending on tactics that are maybe the right tactics, but what you're putting out there is unable to engage the customer.
So what you're, so I like what you're talking about with this three-legged stool, right? Where if you don't have the proper support, like something's going to fall down and someone's going to hurt themselves, right? And what happens with that is you're right. Like if you're not, if you don't have the right strategy, if you haven't looked at the market, you know, it, deeply enough in order to understand exactly what it is that they want, you could be coming in too early. You could also be coming in too late, or you could just be creating a product that nobody wants,
Hmm.
right? So talk to me a little bit about, maybe if you could use an example from your work of how you have helped a company get from point A, where they were sort of flailing on one of these three legs, but then you were able to bring them to profitability afterwards, by implementing this framework.
Okay. So, a perfect example of an owner of a landscaping company calling us and saying that he wanted to run a really expensive ad in a high-end magazine downtown. And he wanted to run that because he is after the elite customer, and he is building beautiful pools. Now, the company name was Woodfield Landscaping. If you looked at their brand, they looked like a local landscaper. You didn't really perceive high-end beautiful pools. And my business partner, Matt, told this gentleman that he's not going to run his ad. He's not doing it because he's going to waste his money. And the customer was like, what do you mean? I build gorgeous pools. And Matt said, yes, but nobody can say that. You have to remember that the elite audience is looking for brands like BMW and Porsche and Rolls Royce and Rolex and these luxury brands that have this high end elite luxury perception, right? If you're going to these companies, we're talking about $120,000 backyard, right? It's not going to resonate with the market. You essentially don't even do landscaping. You do landscaping, but you don't, because what you do for these elite customers is literally an outdoor living experience, right? So Matt said to him, we're not going to run your ad, but we can rebrand you, fix this perception, and align the brand strategically, and then we can run the ad. So what happened with this particular company is that they went through our branding process. We fixed the messaging, we fixed the image. We really built a brand that would engage that high-end elite customer. And then we went back to the same tactics he was using with this new image. And all of a sudden, he was getting tons of qualified leads instead of a bunch of unqualified leads. We never actually ran the magazine ad because we didn't need to. And the business ran from a two to, I believe, they are a $10 million company now at after 4 years, for years of doing the same things that they've done in the past and couldn't grow with that same budget.
You know what's interesting is that you could, for a lot of businesses, if you just change that, this is the result that I'm going to give you, to this is the experience that you're going to project and that you're going to be able to have, that changes the game. Like that
Mm-hmm.
instantly 10x's anything that you can charge, because what you're doing is that you're selling this, this entire feeling, and feelings are much harder to come by than just some kind of possession of what it is that like how you feel like when you use this keyboard, or how you feel when you use a Mac versus a PC. Those kinds of feelings and experiences are what makes these sales skyrocket exponentially, not just having a slick commercial or having a cute girl on the cover, things like that. One of the things that I found interesting in what you were saying was, like you basically took a company that provides a relative commodity, right? So landscaping, like you said, they're a dime a dozen, in any major city. You can find lots of people that do it. But then, like it had to be at least a little bit risky for this owner to really take you up on that offer to, get away from, okay, we're not just planting trees here. We are providing an outdoor living experience. How What was that conversation like to sort of drive them, into the next step of the strategy and how to make that marketing actually work for them?
It actually wasn't difficult. You know why? Because they were delivering exceptional outdoor living experiences. You just couldn't see it from the outside. So one of my favorite clients, or not my favorite clients in general, they have an exceptional product or service, but you can't tell it by looking at them. Another example is a private school that we rebranded, that just really focuses on loving the student, and instead of no recess, they have two recesses. They go outside, they learn outside. They are really embracing play and utilizing play to learn, even at a higher age, like in their high school year. They use classical education, and they just look like this little tiny school that nobody goes to when you looked at their website. And rebranding them and really showcasing them that message to parents who would send their kids there, because that's what they value, was really, really us translating what's inside, right? The greatness of their product and services into the brand, so that brand is reflecting the greatness of the product or services. So once I look at it as a prospect, I see, wow. Same thing with the landscaping company. They were building pools, you know. So you just can't tell that when you hear the name landscaping. You know what I mean? You're not getting high end pools from that. You uh, getting lawn care or like tree trimming or whatever have you, right? So we needed to clarify their message and image so that they are a pure reflection on what was happening inside. So I didn't need to convince Peter, because I saw the blurry little bad pictures that he was taking of these beautiful pools with the umbrellas like thrown on the side of the pool or whatever. But for the luxury brand, we're cleaning all that up. We're opening the umbrella when we take the pictures. We might have a family cooking out in their outdoor kitchen, which is gorgeous, but you're kind of projecting the promise of this brand to prospects, and then there's an alignment of expectation and experience. And when that checks out, then the 5-star reviews are flowing in. Yes, they said they were going to build me a luxury outdoor experience. I got that. I couldn't be any happier. Now I'm leaving them a 5-star review, right? Before, they would get 5-star reviews. But I would go to this website and be entirely confused because I don't see that. It doesn't reflect to me that greatness of product or service.
What a great example. Thank you so much for sharing that. What advice would you give an entrepreneur that is just starting out with trying to brand themselves, right? Or brand their business and to, like, figure out like what's the difference between the result that I'm delivering versus the experience that I'm trying to convey or that I'm giving to other people, in addition to, the results and everything else that like I'm going to do in order to make your life better. What kind of advice would you give to someone who's just coming into this and needs to understand why why these foundational steps are so important?
Sure. I think what is most important for any business that is going to invite customers in is to, I understand that you have visions and mission and goals, etc., but you have to uh, have the ability to see yourself from someone else's perspective, and ideally from your ideal customer's perspective. A good example would be, let's say that you mentioned to me engineering and XML files and et cetera, right? Let's say you're an IT consultant, right? And you help small business owners like me, right? If you start talking to me about your technical lingo of XML files and gigabytes and terabytes, etc., and email speed in RAM or whatever have you, you're gonna lose me very, very quickly. Even though to yourself you sound very knowledgeable and expert like, to that person, they're not gonna be able to understand what you're saying, right? So the number one thing I would recommend to anybody is to find out who your ideal customer is and translate your deliverables into their language. So what would help me is you telling me, leave the IT to us, right? IT problems are complicated. It's not something you as a business owner should be focusing about. You want to grow your business, you're pulled in a million directions. Let us give you your time back by not having to worry about stuff that you're not an expert in, right? That would be something like, oh yeah, that's what I need, not gigabytes and terabytes, etc., right? So putting yourself in the shoes of your audience is what I would recommend before you say anything. And also, if you have the ability to do that, you will find out what they value in relation to what you're delivering. You will be able to speak it in a way that they understand it. Again, time saving, you know, uh, um, I don't know, peace of mind. Things can be a little bit more aspirational than what they look, right? And stop talking about yourself. 35 years in business, family owned, uh, you know, 25 years of experience. You can say that down the road, but at the first point of engagement, all they care about is what's in it for them. And if you can answer that question with clarity, that doesn't make me wonder, like, is this a tech company or is this a medical practice? I have no idea. And then you just lost me because I don't have time to figure that out. And nobody's going to give you time. Sometimes being a little bit more literal is very helpful, using words that can allow me to put you in the right category. So if you do IT and you say IT in your name or your tagline or your headline that you're fishing me in, I can put you in the IT category and not wonder what kind of consultant you are, you know. Uh, but then, what's the value point? Hire the IT consultant that can give you your time back. Wow.
You know what's really interesting? The visual that came to mind, and the reason why I'm chuckling at this is when I see people that put out there, we have over 250 years of combined experience, and it's like, wait, dude, like the computers weren't even invented, that long ago. Like, what does that even mean, right? And when you start putting out these nebulous terms, these things are like up in the cloud, they're foggy. Nobody really understands what it is that they do. That sort of goes along the lines of what you're saying,
Yeah.
right? Is that it needs to be immediately clear. I will allow you to sleep at night because your data is safe. That's it. You don't need to know anything about RAID drives. You don't need to know anything about network protocols. None of that. All you need to know is that your data will be safe and you can go on that cruise and I will take care of everything else. Right.
Exactly. And that's what the noise is. And so many businesses put paragraphs and paragraphs, but I guarantee you nobody reads them. You know,
Exactly.
bullet points and headlines. And consider your website. You might have spent umpteenth hours writing a 40-page website that nobody looks at. You know, it's people scanning things nowadays or whatever. And the sooner you can answer what's in it for them, and they say, yes, I need that, the sooner they'll pick up the phone and contact you.
Amazing, amazing advice. Thank you so much for sharing that. Orshi, can you please let everyone know how they can learn more about you, how they can learn more about your company, and how they can reach out to you directly?
Sure. So you have it right. Our website is brand3.net, and there's a schedule a call button on there, which links directly to my calendar. So anybody who wants to talk to me can find me there. And you can also find me on LinkedIn and message me there.
Amazing. Orshi, thank you so much for joining me. This has been a lot of fun. I love talking about this stuff, and I love how you brought the energy and were able to bring some really actionable examples. I really feel that it helped. Thank you for joining me today.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me.